Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. We're here for City Council meeting. It is Monday, September 19th, 2022. And we'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Stroman.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Ham.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Roseland.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the invocation, and our speaker was to be Angela Myers, but I don't see her in the audience. So let's have we'll have a moment of silence, and then we'll follow that with a Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, under God, indivisible, justice for all. Now on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda, and this is where City Council members may adopt the agenda as written or make certain alterations to it. Would there be a motion? Motion to adopt by Solomon and second by Lehman. All in favor of adoption of this agenda say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. And now we have item number 1, a proclamation for Suicide Prevention Month. And if we could get the Front Porch Coalition to come up front. Going to read this executive proclamation, and what it doesn't say is what I'll say right now, and that is that suicide is a community issue. It occurs in every community on this planet, and it is something that all community members can have some positive effect on. And so I'll read the proclamation. Whereas September 2022 is National Suicide Prevention Month, and whereas suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the United States, and nearly 46,000 Americans died by suicide in 2020, with 1.2 million attempting suicide. And whereas in 2021, South Dakota saw the highest rate of death to suicide ever recorded, and Pennington County saw a 24% increase in deaths to suicide from the previous year. And whereas there is no single cause for suicide, there are risk factors and warning signs which may increase likelihood of an attempt, and learning about these can help save lives. And whereas resiliency begins early in life within families, daycares, and schools, and can be strengthened and reinforced throughout the lifespan. And whereas for those that suffer with mental health conditions, early detection and adequate treatment are key to reducing the risk of suicide. And whereas the Front Porch Coalition encourages relatives, friends, coworkers, and providers to recognize the early warning signs and guide those in need to appropriate services and supports. Now therefore, I, Steve Allender, Mayor of Rapid City, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2022 as Suicide Prevention Month in Rapid City. And now I would ask the Front Porch Coalition if you'd like to say a few words.
We just thank the city's recognition and support of the organization we provide support to the families in our community who have lost a loved one to suicide. And we thank everyone here for recognizing that this is an epidemic within our community and the communities around us.
Thank you, Bridget. And I would just like to give, on behalf of the City Council and myself, give a special thanks to the Front Porch Coalition for doing all you do and for really upping the game You've been there and you've got several connections with area providers and citizens. You're really building a good footprint here in Rapid City. We appreciate it. Now let's step over here and have a little picture. Thank you very much.
Two shots, 1, 2.
And item number 2 is another proclamation for Constitution Week. It was like a drum roll. Well, it should be obvious how we have benefited from and how we feel about the Constitution of the United States, but to put that into writing, I'll read an executive proclamation. Whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas the Constitution has guided our growth, shaped our progress, and defined us as a nation of sacred laws and fundamental values. And whereas the Constitution is the bedrock we build upon to make our nation more equal, more just, and more prosperous for all people. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designated September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Therefore, I, Steve Allender, Mayor of Rapid City, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week in Rapid City, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties. Remember that lost rights may never be regained. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. It took them 116 days to draft the Constitution, most of it done, I'm sure, in some very heated discussions, but eventually all of the colonies' delegates ratified. All of the delegates did not sign it, however, and it took a little bit of time for 9 of the 13 colonies to ratify it before it went into effect. But it is our most important document, and I am here tonight representing the Black Hills chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. It was through that agency that Constitution Week was originally proposed and drafted. So thank you very much for continuing this, and I'm sure in the coming years it will soon be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. So we will be back again. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Shots on 2, 1, 2. Shot, 1, 2.
116 days? Oh, wait, do you want to get one more?
Yeah, can we do one more freedom for her? Great. 1.
Okay, thank you. 116 days to construct the U.S. Constitution. I think I've seen it take longer than that to put together a task force before. And it feels like sometimes we've had council meetings that long. But what an achievement, what a monumental achievement for that document. Okay, now something off script. This is agenda item 2.5. That is, we will recognize our outgoing finance director, Pauline Sumption. And if you wouldn't mind joining me up here. Pauline Sumption has been in municipal finance for about 24 years. She's been with the City of Rapid City since 2007. And I first came to know her when I was serving as police chief here. She has been a constant voice of reason. She has been, and you know, she's an accountant, so there's always an answer. And usually the answer means I'm wrong and she's right. It's kind of like at home. But she's been a significant force in the financial well-being of this community, in the budgeting needs and giving financial advice to the 12 departments. She's been an all-around awesome employee, awesome person, awesome leader. And so I just want to take a minute tonight to celebrate her and wish her well as she moves on to the private sector, where I'm sure she'll be just as valuable of an asset there as well. So Pauline, thank you for all your years of service. Thank you for being you, and keep us in mind, you know, when you're in the big time, and look back at us little people. Thank you very much.
I was going to be here tonight for moral support for Tracy, and then I wasn't going to be here tonight because my daughter had volleyball games, and I figured Tracy could handle the agenda, and then a little birdie told me I should probably still be here. So I'm here. Otherwise, you'd have nobody to hand that to tonight. It's been a good 15 years at the city. I can't say all of it's been good. There's been challenges along the way, reading emails for hours on end during the mask debate was probably not one of my highlights, but I got a lot of feedback on that, mostly good. One didn't like how I pronounced some words, but that's okay. Thank you to the city, to the people who believed in me, to Jim Preston, my mentor and friend. Very much encouraged me to do this job. Mayor Shaw for hiring me as the assistant back in 2007, and all the elected officials along the way. I've grown a lot as a person. I've grown a lot as a leader, and I look forward to my next step, and a great opportunity presented itself, and I just couldn't say no. So thank you all, and thank you all for the opportunity to serve you. Staying for the whole meeting.
Second shot.
Okay, next on the agenda is general public comment, and there are no speaker request forms tonight, so we'll forego general public comment period. And we'll move on to non-public hearing items 3 through 37. There are also no speaker forms for those items. So next we'll take on consent, items 3 through 31. And we'll see if city council members have any items to pull to be considered individually. Bill Evans.
I'd like to pull 29, please.
Okay, any others? Jason Solomon.
Number 17, please.
Any other items to be pulled from consent? If not, then I'd entertain a motion to approve consent with the exception of items 17 and 29. Motion by Jones, second by Evans. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now down to item 17. Authorize staff to advertise for Canyon Lake Pond Walls Reconstruction Phase 1 for $750,000. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I direct a question to our Parks Director, Jeff Beegler?
Yes, please.
Director Beegler, first, would you just give a summary of what this project is, and then I'll have a follow-up question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. As any of you are aware of Canyon Lake Park, there are a number of ponds and raceways where the water from the lake goes through the park and then exits back into Rapid Creek. Those pond walls have been lined with a stacked limestone for years and years, and it is just crumbling and falling apart. It's become a safety concern as well as an aesthetic concern. It's also, this project will replace those walls with a pour-in-place or a poured concrete wall that'll have a form liner in it so that it'll resemble stacked stone when they're finished with it. It'll also then be dredged out to the point where it will improve the fishing habitat, and that's why the Department of Game Fish and Parks wanted to be involved, as it's going to present a good opportunity for urban fishing, something that they are very interested in pursuing starting this year. We will also be improving the accessibility from the parking lots to these ponds so that individuals with wheelchairs or strollers will be able to get really close to the ponds to be able to fish in them. So it's a rehab project, and this is the first phase of it.
Well, first of all, I love the ponds. I think we all do. There's a special attachment to those of us who've grown up here and have a lot of memories to that. I love that people of all abilities can now take advantage of the ponds to even throw a fishing line or just look in there. I think the big question was, are we going to lose some of the charm and the aesthetic of the stacked stones? So you're telling us today that what you have in place is still going to have the appearance of stacked stone even though it is actually concrete?
That's correct, yes. Of course, it won't look exactly like they look today, but all of the stacked stone that's on the entry coming in from Jackson Boulevard will remain. So there'll still be that appearance of the stacked stone in the park. So I think it's going to be a big improvement, and I don't think it's going to detract at all from the aesthetic of the park.
I don't imagine using limestone again was an option?
No, it really wasn't.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I yield.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Speaking of the limestone, I just watched a little documentary on the quarry that coming up with the limestone, and it's over in eastern South Dakota. So it was kind of fascinating to watch that documentary about where those, not necessarily these particular stones came from, but it's interesting to hear the history behind that. So speaking a little bit of the history, none of this is, that I'm aware of, falls in the concern for historic value. Is that correct?
That is correct. It is not historic.
Thank you. And then the only other area that of interest and maybe some historical value is the entrance. It would be nice to just have a photo documentary of those stones that are there at the entrance. So we have some kind of a history record, if you will, of that area. So thank you for doing this project. Appreciate it. I yield.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say, Mr. Beegler, that I think this is a really worthwhile project, and I congratulate you on getting involvement from Game and Fish, where they're going to reimburse or pay a substantial portion of the cost, probably about half of it. And I think that's a great joint effort by the two different governmental divisions. So congratulations on that. I yield.
Bill Evans.
Well, in conjunction with what Richie just said, I did check with Mr. Biegler at one of the meetings. I can't remember whether it was parks or beautification or something, but he did assure me also at the same time that none of these were Youth Conservation Corps or WPA projects. Actually, that they were all built much after that, except for the main gateway there, right? And that was done by people that would mean it has some historical value. So I'm hoping that if we do some photo documentation, we find that in comparison with what we had and the new stuff, they do, you know, appear pretty much the same, and I'm hoping for that, and that we can continue to incorporate that particular aesthetic throughout our parks, because I think it's a really beautiful one. We have some, because of the flagstone, we have some advantages in terms of vernacular architecture and design that other places may not have, and it's really important that we utilize them, and that stacked stone is one of them, so thank you.
Pat Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move approval of item 17 and keep the floor, if I can have a second.
Okay, second by Jason Solomon. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Question for Director Biegler.
Yes, sir.
Will it be possible, Director Biegler, to save any of that stone so people could have it if you know, there's special memories attached to those ponds, or, you know, the park from the flood or anything like that? Or will it be, you know, when it's taken apart, it'll just be impossible to keep them intact?
They do have a plan to reuse some of it in the ponds. You know, right below the walls, they would like to put a course of that so that so it wouldn't be as just the silt directly below there. There would be a layer of the stone. So they do plan on using some of it as kind of a riprap type of material. I don't know if it would be something the contractor would want to save for people to come and use, but I can certainly check with them.
Yeah, I think it would be a fair question to ask the contractor, and if it can, and there's people that stone would mean something to, then by all means, should we give them that opportunity?
Sure, yeah. I think
that is such a special area down there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, motion is for approval of 17. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 29. After no bids were received for the Rapid City City Hall Phase 2 renovation, opened on September 13th, staff recommends negotiating a contract in accordance with SDCL 5-18A-5, Section 9 at the looking for approval from the council to go out and negotiate for a contract, which is allowed by law. Bill Evans.
Well, I just have a simple question, and I don't even know who we asked on this one, but I don't know what this is for exactly and what portion of the project. If you recall, several months ago at one of the Public Works meetings, we had decided that further modifications and further completions of these remodeling projects in this building would come in stages, and we'd be able to vote on them independently. So I'm just curious, who can we access to figure out what this is that we're voting on here?
I believe Dale Tech would have those answers.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. This is the project that was presented to the council. So this is the balance of the construction effort in City Hall. So council chambers, I believe there was some other minor office renovations that were included. So the work that would be negotiated is exactly the work that was bid. That's part of the requirement, I believe, of state statute. We have to negotiate the same work that was bid. I believe Mr. Johnson had provided a presentation as to what was included in that. In addition, there was the ad alternates that were included in that as well. So all of that would be negotiated with the contractor, and the City Council would have the same authority to accept or change what was ultimately awarded by contract.
Oh, so we will have another chance to review exactly what we're spending the money on?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's my only question.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you need a motion on that to allow the staff to continue negotiation?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion to allow staff to continue the negotiations.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Is there a second? Second by Bill Evans. John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask Dale Tech a question real quick?
Please.
So, Dale, I'm just curious, who chooses and how do you pick the contractors that are going to be asked to do this?
That's a great question. Certainly, the obvious choice would be the prior contractor that worked in this building, to visit with them. They have some familiarity. We'll probably put a notice out inviting interest in the project.
Okay. And don't we have a list of contractors that
Yes.
can work for us? I mean, they have to be on that list before they can actually...
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 29. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That's the end of consent items. So now on to non-consent items 32 through 37. There are no speaker requests for these items, so we will not have a public comment period. We'll start then under city ordinances, item 32. Second reading of ordinance number 6551 regarding supplemental appropriation number 3 for 2022. Motion to approve by Nordstrom. Second by Pat Jones. All in favor of approving item 32, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 33, second reading, ordinance 6550 regarding the fiscal year 2023 appropriation ordinance. Motion to approve by Pat Jones, second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of approving item 33, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Just one? Okay, yeah, roll call.
Jones,
Aye.
Lehman,
No.
Solomon,
No.
Evans,
Aye.
Roseland, Nordstrom,
Aye.
Ham. Sorry.
No.
Roberts,
No.
Stroman,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-4.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to item 34, approve first reading of ordinance number 6552 regarding supplemental appropriation number 4 for 2022.
Second.
Approve Lehman, second by Nordstrom. All in favor of approval of 34, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Community development items, item 35. A request by Dale Funderburk for Flatirons, did I say that right? For Flatirons design for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lot 2A and 2B of Block 2 of Village on the Green, number 3, subdivision, generally described as being located northwest of the intersection of Anna Court and Saddle Hill Drive. The recommendation is to approve with stipulations. So moved. Motion to approve with stipulations by Lehman and a second by whom? Pat Roseland. Okay. All in favor of that motion on item 35, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 36, a request by Renner Associates LLC for Bill Freytag for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 15 through 16 of Block 5, Lot 1 of Block 8, Caitlyn Subdivision, generally described as being located on Country Road West. And again, the recommendation is to approve with stipulations. Motion by Solomon and a second by Lehman. All in favor of approval of item 30?
Mr. Mayor, I'm in the queue.
Oh, no, I don't see you.
Oh,
But
you
you can
didn't
still
come in?
speak.
Sorry.
John Roberts.
I just need to abstain from this.
Gotcha. Okay. All in favor, except for John Roberts, of item 36, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with one member abstaining. Item 37, request by Renner Associates LLC for CPP Rushmore 2 LLC for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Lot 1 and Lot 2 of Rushmore Crossing 2, generally described as being located north of the intersection of Eglin Street and Luna Avenue, and the recommendation is to approve with stipulations. Motion by Roberts to approve, second by Nordstrom. All in favor of approving item 37 with stipulations, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now on to public hearing items 38 through 45. There are no speaker requests, so we will not have a public comment period, but we'll go on to consent public hearing items 38 through 43. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If it's all right with you to pull item 42 for a moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pat Jones? Okay, 42. All right, then any others to be pulled from consent? Okay, we have a motion to approve all but 42 from John Roberts, second from Lance Lehman. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 42, Rapid City Cannabis, doing business as Rapid City Cannabis for a new retail malt beverage and South Dakota Farm wine license and a retail wine and cider license at 3075 North Plaza Drive, Suite B. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for Director Fisher, please.
Yes.
Director Fisher, I presume all of the requirements are satisfied with this application? Distances and everything else that goes along with it?
Mayor, so this did not go through our office. This is going to be an off-sale only. For the dispensary itself, yes, it was a permitted location, and so it did secure the necessary permits for it. However, there is nothing in state law that prevents them from selling alcohol at the same location as a dispensary.
Thank you. And then about the only misunderstanding on my part is which one is Suite B? Do you know, have that information? I know where it's located and all that, but I don't know where Suite B is located.
I couldn't answer specifically where in the building it is, but assuming it's one in from the end, but I don't know which end it would be. I don't know if the applicant's here in the audience either. But it is specific to just that one suite. It couldn't go anywhere else in the building.
Understand. I just had a citizen calling up on it and was raising some concerns about it, so I just want to make sure that everything was being satisfied from the planning side of it.
It is a great question, and it's important to note that the only individuals that they could sell to is someone that is authorized to enter the dispensary. So they have to go through screening, they'll have to have a medical card, they'll have to be of age, and it's a courtesy that they want to be able to sell someone an alcoholic beverage in addition to cannabis, but it'll have a very limited customer base.
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. I think that's very helpful. I yield.
Okay, Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I was very much opposed to this last week and appreciate the other three council members who voted against it. I'm going to encourage all of you to vote against it tonight, and I'm going to share my concerns with this. The definition of medical marijuana, that is marijuana that is available only by prescription and is used to treat a variety of medical conditions. 14 states allow medical marijuana at this time. And this is straight from the definition. Middle-aged baby boomers talk quite freely about filling their prescriptions at the local dispensary. Well, dispensary is a word that has been used an awful lot during the process of South Dakota coming to the vote of medical marijuana, it passing, and so on. And we see these signs all over town, adapted from the American Red Cross symbol, only green, which I can only assume is for in support of marijuana, and that these dispensaries are in place to do one thing, and that is distribute medical marijuana to people who have a prescription. And that is why they exist. That is what we've been told all along the line as to why they exist and what they're going to do. Now, never once along the line has this come into play. The idea of, let's go have happy hour at the medical marijuana place, buy 2 joints, get your first drink free. And that concerns me. These two things don't go together. They don't go together, and they shouldn't go together, and we have to take great concern in the direction we're wanting Rapid City to go with this. This is the first request for this type of item. This response by the council tonight will set the tone as to where this goes. I can assure you, sure as I'm sitting here filling up this chair, that if this passes, there will be more coming. And I don't believe that this is what the citizens of Rapid City want to see. Many people have commented to me already how concerned they are seeing all these places popping up and billboards and everything, and gee, we didn't know this is what we were going to get into, and so on. So I believe we have a responsibility to hold this to what we were said and told that it would be, not a bar, not a place to go in and get a beer or a glass of wine, which I have nothing against, quite fond of it myself, but not at a dispensary where we were told that it was going to dispense medical marijuana, and that's the only reason that it was going to be there. Period. That's it, and that's what we were told. And so it's offensive to me that now they're coming in and wanting to add beer and wine licenses to the dispensaries. Personally, I've never been to a doctor's office that had happy hour or that served beer and wine. That's not part of what goes on there. So I ask you to think deep within your heart, within your mind. Is this what we want Rapid City to be known for? Is this the dispensary and the doobie factory that we want to see and we want our visitors to know about? I really ask you to consider strongly voting no about this so we can draw the line and set a message about what we want Rapid City to look like. Thank you very much.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll make this very quick. I'm just going to speak to my council members up here on the dais and, excuse me, I'm getting over a head cold, and caution you to not go down the road that Mr. Jones is asking us to, because every time we go down that road and we get sued, we lose. If somebody falls into the area of where they fall into a conditional use permit, because the state of South Dakota doesn't disallow this, that doesn't necessarily mean they allow it, but in court it seems like every time we try to challenge that, we lose. The only thing that we know for sure is if the state writes a law that says that this is not allowed, then we on this dais can make that decision. I think when we start to try to make state law from this dais, that's when we get sued and we get into trouble. And I've seen that over and over and over again on this dais in the 11 years I've been here. You may have the absolute best moral right to do this, but that doesn't put you above state law. So unfortunately, our hands are tied on this dais. We can only do what the law allows us to do. And do I think it's right or wrong? I don't know. Is it right or wrong to go get your hair cut and be able to have a drink? Is it right or wrong to be able to go get your nails done and have a drink? And this they can go and buy it and leave. They're not drinking on premise, I don't believe, are they? It's just off sale, isn't it? Yeah, it's just off sale. It's not.
It says in here, and that's not what was presented.
Let's just push pause, all look at your time, and
Go ahead, Vicki, you can answer that question.
So when you get a license, it's always going to read on-off sale, but they get an on-off sale for off-sale only. And that's how this one is being secured, is for off-sale only. You won't be able to drink on-site.
okay,
Anyway, thank you, I'm done.
okay. Bill Evans.
whether or not I agree with Mr. Jones is irrelevant. We have to really agree with Mr. Roberts that these are two separate questions, and we shouldn't be mixing them together if we want to change the ordinances and the laws, and we need to change this. But right now, granting these particular licenses, I think, are in accordance with all of those, and we have an obligation to do so. And if we don't like that, we need to change the law for the future. But the result, if we start picking and choosing based upon our personal preferences, again, like Mr. Roberts says, most likely you're opening yourselves up to a lawsuit. So I would encourage people to do what you should, whether it leaves a bad taste in your mouth or not. Thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate everybody's passion on this. For me, I've kind of just made up my mind. I'll just do whatever the law says, one way or the other. So when we had the conditional use permits, I said I'll vote. Well, I don't even have to vote on them if they didn't need a conditional permit, but if they need a conditional use permit, which is an exception to being a location that isn't defined as allowable, I wasn't going to allow that. So last time we had this, I had the question of how far is this location from the church that's nearby, which I work at. So it's just full disclosure. And so we didn't have the answer to that. So I voted no because I didn't know the answer. But Ms. Fisher, if I may, Ms. Fisher, you have clarified that this is well beyond what's allowed by distance from a cannabis or dispensary, excuse me, to a church or park or anything of that nature?
So the ordinance was written so that a dispensary, if it was at a minimum of 1,000 feet from a school or 500 feet from a church, playground, a child care center, or public park, that it would be permitted. It had to be a minimum of 500 feet. This particular site falls into the permitted category, so it was never brought before the council when all of those other conditional use permits got appealed.
Right. So, and with that, that's allowable right now with the medical dispensaries. And so in terms of the location, that was one of my big questions, and we have that answered. But secondly, I think this is interesting to have on-off sale. Why not just go on sale or off sale? Why is there a distinction to add them together so that we're not up here confused about what the nature of this is?
I will have to defer to finance as to why the licenses are called out this way.
Would you like to hear from finance?
Please, I'd love an answer from somebody who
Davis?
knows.
And I hate to put Tracy on the spot. So the way Pauline has always explained it to us is that the licenses are always for an on-off sale, but the authority as to what part of it is used is specific to how it's requested, and this is requested as an off-sale license only.
Is that written somewhere so that it's very
Yes.
clear about what the intention of this location is? Because obviously, if the council up here is confused about it, I wonder if others might be as well. Red, blue car, yeah. Bill just had the analogy of a red, blue car, but I'm just getting the blue one. I think that's the confusion among us, what the intention is of this site. So I guess if we have any clarification on that as we go along, that'd be great. I do agree with John. We have to go by whatever the law does. I mean, we all have stances on various things, and if this was a conditional use permit, I would not allow, no exceptions for me on that. But if this is not even permitted to that end, I guess it's fine. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, if I might. When this inquiry first came forward, from a planning perspective, we took the position, whoa, wait a minute, this is a dispensary, it has all this security, it has air quality issues, it's supposed to be a very isolated use. We reached out to the city attorney's office, and in looking back at state law, some states do create their cannabis laws so that you can't sell these items, such as alcohol, in addition to cannabis dispensaries. South Dakota did not structure their medical cannabis laws that way. So we are operating off of that state law. We have also heard that some states have gone back and changed that over time. We looked at it again from a pharmacy, and I love that Councilman Jones mentioned that we do continually refer these back to places that sell medicine. We do have other pharmacies in town that do sell alcohol from those facilities. Can't drink it on site, but you can buy it in the store and take it home.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, may I direct a question to the city attorney? See it there, okay. Joel, some things are open to interpretation where we can get confused. Can you clarify for us, does state law make this pretty black and white, or is there gray area? Can you just give us some guidance so that we know whether we're being lawful or not and how we vote?
Well, I think there probably is some gray area here. I mean, state law doesn't prohibit it, so you can't rely on state law. That is something normally. I'm assuming I didn't look at this specific question, but I'm assuming there's nothing in the city ordinance that prevents it. Zoning allows it. So, but this is approving an alcohol license, so it's a little different than a conditional use. But the appropriate things to look at when you're deciding whether to issue a license is the character and fitness of the applicant and the appropriateness of the location. Well, that's a gray area, because you could argue that you do not believe that a dispensary is an appropriate location. However, it complies with our zoning, so if I was the lawyer for the dispensary, I would say, well, your zoning already said the location is appropriate. I do tend to agree. It depends on how much risk you want to take. If you deny it, you're likely or potential to get sued, and I cannot guarantee the outcome of that. Not saying it's not defensible, but we certainly have in situations like this where we've picked out a business, usually casino, and said, no, we're not going to put you at this location. As Alderman Roberts has said, it's not usually successful. Similar situation with an adult business. So
I wonder, for the sake of time, I wonder if it'd be wise if we continued for 2 weeks to get all the facts in front of us rather than just getting it right now, so that we can make an informed decision and make sure that we're not going off any emotion or anything like that, unless it's a problem. But
No, I'm just wondering what.
well, to look at the state law, to make sure that we are all very clear about what he said. There's a little bit of gray area. We might have to.
I think it's gray in that the gray is, could you deny this based on a decision that the location was not appropriate? You could, but 2 weeks from now, I'm not going to be able to guarantee you the answer. I do tend to agree if you want to take the cautious approach. The cautious approach would be to go back and look at the very least, the city ordinances and decide if you want to amend the city ordinance to prohibit having both a dispensary and a off-sale alcohol establishment. But I don't think we took that into consideration at the time. Like has been stated, normally it's in the state law.
Okay. I know my time's up. Thank you.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to continue this for 2 weeks, and if I can get a second, I'd like to.
Okay, second by Solomon. Go ahead.
Thank you. I feel like it's confusing to me because I'm looking at this, and all the other applications here specifically say just on sale. They don't say on off sale. And so I want to clarify that. That's one of the things I want to clarify. And I want to perhaps have an opportunity to discuss this with Mr. Landine to find out, a little bit more, dig a little deeper into it. I would just like to have some extra time to do that. So that's where I'm at right now. I yield.
Okay. Jesse Ham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to make a motion that we give it 2 weeks to, I've got to do a little background research on this. So my work has been done. Thank you.
Sounds good. Pat Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. So as it's been stated up here, it is not automatic. The city council has the responsibility to review these and approve them. If it was an automatic yes, then it wouldn't be appearing before this body tonight. So we do have the right and the authority to review these things and decide if they are what we want to approve for our community or not. And so that is where I'm coming from with this. It isn't just an automatic thing that will happen or should happen or can happen. It only happens if the council decides that it should. So we don't have to be, I think we have to show courage, not be afraid, and step up and do what it appears to me the majority of people who have talked to me about this And that's one of the reasons I'm pushing so hard, is because of people talking to me about this, and make a decision that is in the best interest of our citizens. I'm very glad we're going to take a look at it for 2 more weeks, and maybe I'll have more signs in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right, now we're just going to hear from the finance for a minute. Tracy Davis.
Heidi actually handles all the alcohol licensing for our office. She may have some additional information that may be helpful.
Heidi?
So I'm not asked these questions very often, but if you look at all of the licenses under alcohol licenses, every one of those is a special event except for 42. Special event is you have to say on sale or you have to say off sale. But the state changed the rules because the licenses used to say only on sale or only off sale. They combined it 4, 5, 6 years ago to say on-off sale. So for instance, Walgreens says on-off sale, but you're not going to drink in Walgreens. You're going to take it with you. Whereas casinos also say on-off sale, but you're not going to take a beer off-site. So it was the state that changed that, and unless it's a special event or a packaged liquor or a retail liquor, it's always going to say on-off.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to postpone to the October 3rd City Council meeting, and let's go to roll call vote, please.
Roberts. Stroman.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Lehman.
No.
Solomon.
Aye.
Evans. Roseland. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Ham.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-2.
Okay, thank you. So item 42 will be appearing on the October 3rd agenda then. Okay, that brings us to the end of consent, and now to non-consent public hearing items. Item 44, second reading, ordinance 6546, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Ferber Engineering Company for Peaches LLC for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to General Commercial for property generally described as being located south of Eglin, west of Luna Avenue. Recommendation is to approve. Motion to approve by Lehman, second by Roberts. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 45. Approve Resolution 2022-061, resolution for vacation of section line right-of-way, property generally described as being located north of the northern terminus of North Valley Drive. Motion to approve by Solomon, second by Roberts. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now on to item 46, which is the bill list. And we'll go to Tracy Davis.
There are no changes to the bill list, so as it was presented to you at $8,710,675.46.
Okay, motion to approve by Solomon, second by Roberts. All in favor of approving the bill list, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion. Hold on, Bill Evans, moment of privilege. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go back to our vote on the 2023 budget. I have no problem with people voting no, but we did have 2 special hearings where people were supposed to voice their opinion as to what was right or wrong with this particular budget. And frankly, I don't know what it is about the budget that people don't agree with. I wish that would have come up for discussion because perhaps there were valid ideas that we could have changed. So rather than just voting no tonight, I wish maybe we could have had those discussions in public so people could have been a little more forthcoming with their oppositions to certain parts of it. That's just my only comment because I think it would be in everybody's interest to know if there's a better solution to the one we voted on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Someone made a motion to adjourn. Pat Jones, second. Somebody make a second? Second. Okay, second by Stroman. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned, everyone. Thank you.
You are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence.